Was there any attempt after the hyperinflation that contracts that were paid at pennies on the mark after the hyperinflation, to rewrite those contracts so that they had to be repaid in a sound currency?
No, there was some of the government bonds were repaid at sort of 4 or 5%. I mean, not 100%. There was a certain amount of that, and simply because in the course of the hyperinflation, or rather the pre-hyperinflation times, 19, 21, 22, when it took off, they began to issue bonds and various instruments which were guaranteed in some sort of way against the future. But the guarantees weren't worth very much. The answer is no. Broadly speaking, no, I think.
The reason why I'm asking that question is I don't want to give viewers of this video the impression that borrowing during a period of inflation is a one-way street. Because I like to use the example of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. He paid the debts on his father-in-law's estate just shortly before the War of Independence broke out, and it placed the currency with the state government during the period of war in Virginia, with the money to be then paid after the war. But while the money was sitting there, it basically was debased to nothing. And after the war, the courts ruled that he had to repay that debt again in hard currency, which, of course, was the British pound. So he ended up having to pay that debt twice. There was no effort like that in Germany to force creditors to repay in terms of what they actually borrowed.
No, all the pressure was coming from the Allies, from France, the Reparations Commission. The winners, I told you, were the speculators, the industrialists who were building, who got endless credit, built factories, were able to export using low wages at home, and making a huge amount of money in foreign exchange. So that, and they were, for a time, the winners. When the inflation was over, they found themselves unable to cope with all these empty factories, which nobody wanted to use.
Because the economy had been destroyed by the hyperinflation.
It had been totally destroyed.
Yeah.
It was astonishing how quickly, after the final default, after everyone was ruined, after the money had died, after the mark was worthless, how quickly it was possible to build the economy again from base. Many people had been ruined, and they had to start again as well. And it was helped by the Dawes Plan, which, rather like the Marshall Plan after the Second World War, America came to Germany's rescue. And it again, Germany had to default on a lot of its reparations obligations. It simply couldn't afford to pay. Incidentally, interestingly, the German reparations for the First World War were finally paid last April. Hitler suspended the payment of the reparation obligations. When after the war, it was decided that the reparations payments would not continue until Germany was reunited. When it was reunited, they started again, and that's why they've finally been paid off. But that's an
interesting historical fact.
Footnote.
Yeah, exactly. Again, in terms of having people protect themselves, we talked about foreign exchange, which obviously meant gold. Tangible assets, was that another way that they were able to protect themselves?
I mean, this business of havens, which we see so much nowadays, was very much in vogue. First, you tried to get foreign currency. And the best ones to hold were the Swiss franc, the guilder, the two neutrals, and dollars, and to some extent sterling. So you went for those if you could. Failing that, you got rid of your money. This is talking by 1923, when inflation was becoming so extraordinary. You simply took your money, bought a share if you could, because the stock exchange was still working very well, or you converted it into a grand piano, whatever you could persuade anyone else who was desperate for money to part with. And you're always looking for that. there was a problem with housing. The Germans have never wanted to own houses very much. They've always tended to rent them. And the landowners, the landlords, were in a very bad way because there had been a law had been passed early in the war controlling rents, holding at pre-war value. So if you happened to have an apartment and you rented it, you went on doing that extremely cheaply. But in the meantime, your landlord or landlady was in penury.
So visible wealth was visible, tangible assets were not necessarily.
I mean, it was quite a good thing to own a block of apartments, but it wasn't doing much good until much later on when you could sell it again.